What's up, Keegan? This is Amon Garrison here. Thanks again for the opportunity for letting me apply for this job on such short notice. Here's just a little video of some observations and breakdown I have from last season for BYU and how some small tweaks could help us win some more games next year. Thanks. Looking at BYU basketball from a bird's eye view, I wanted to see where exactly we could improve so we could win more games next year. And so the first thing I wanted to do was look to focus either on offense or on defense and choose between the two. And so I looked at ESPN's BPI rankings and then the KenPom rankings to see which one that I should focus on. So as we look right here, BYU is ranked 84th in the country here for BPI. And then if we look offensively at offensive BPI, we're ranked 74th. So better than what we are overall. But if we look at our defense, we're actually ranked 94th, which is worse than what we are overall. So this suggests that we could focus on defense instead of offense. And it's a similar thing when we look at the KenPom rankings as well. We're 58th overall. If you look at our offense, we're ranked 50th. And if you look at our defense, we're ranked 70th. And so both BPI and KenPom suggest that we should focus on defense. And so now the question is, what part of defense should we focus on? So the first thing I wanted to see in terms of our analysis on BYU defense is how good we are at defending the three. Obviously, there's a lot of good shooting teams with San Francisco's guards. Gonzaga's obviously really good at shooting as well. And so the first thing we looked at was the stat of defensive three-point percentage. And so if you look here, BYU is actually ranked 40th in the country at three-point defensive percentage with 30.6. And so it looks like that our defense on threes is doing quite fine. And so with our bases covered in terms of how we defend the three, I thought of the next thing that we could improve on defensively that could use some work. And so with our center, Foose being 6'6", I thought defensive rebounding might be a problem. But if we look here just on the NCAA stats, BYU is actually top 10 in the entire country in terms of defensive rebounding. We're number 9 in the country. And so although we might be a little undersized down low, we do not have a problem with defensive rebounding. And I was still looking for BYU defensive Achilles heel. And we learned that it wasn't three-pointers, it wasn't defensive rebounding. And then we looked and we found the stat here on the teams that commit the fewest fouls in all Division I basketball, so about 350 teams. And so we see here that BYU is ranked, or they're tied for 319th with Arizona. So we're committing a lot of fouls. And so I highlight Memphis and Auburn here because these teams, they're known for a pretty good defense, especially Auburn with Jabari Smith. And so you might think that, like Auburn and Memphis, with us taking as many risks as we do with fouling, that we force a lot of turnovers. And for Memphis and Auburn, that is true. They're just outside the top 50 in terms of turnovers forced. So you get the expense and the reward for taking a lot of risks and getting a lot of steals. For BYU, though, we don't get that reward. And so we are tied for 319 with committing fouls, and we're also 311th in terms of forcing turnovers. So our fouls are coming with no reward. They're just fouls that are forcing more free throws. And so with a team that is so talented and good at defensive rebounding and defending the three, I wanted to look at the film and see where these fouls are coming from and how they're occurring and what we could do to fix that. And so I looked at the game logs for all the games, and you can just press like Control F on the game logs in the play-by-play to see where all the fouls are coming on. And so what I found is most of these fouls are happening at the rim. And so I have 5 clips here to show, and it's mostly a focus on verticality. A lot of times they're getting called on calls where we're not being super disciplined, and rather than being vertical, we're giving into the temptation of swiping our hands down. And so this first example here will be Caleb Lohner. He'll just be playing against the game against San Diego. He'll be bumping in the post, and at the last second, he's going to swipe his hand down and go for the block or for the steal.
On how closely Nembhard has been guarding him this entire game.
Good job by Lohner of pushing Kalkbrenner away from his comfort zone. Nice job by Lohner.
Making the big guy put it on the deck. A good move. Lohner whistle for his third personal foul.
And so this next play will be against Gonzaga at home. Alex Barcelo is going to be fronting the post, and Atiki's going to just be playing help side defense. And so it doesn't help that he got there a little bit late, but he also is not straight up and vertical, causing an and one for Chet Holmgren.
But BYU needs to play better to get the full volume. Holmgren with the left hand and a foul.
So this play, it'll also be against Gonzaga. It's Julian Strawther. He's going to go baseline on Seneca Knight. I'm not sure if Seneca was trying to force him baseline, but either way, he goes baseline. And Atiki comes to help. And at the last second, he was pretty vertical at the start, but at the last second, he starts swiping down and loses that verticality, causing 2 more free throws for Gonzaga.
So skilled, a true 7-footer. And kind of tied up there, so Julian Strawther gets hammered going to the basket.
These last 2 clips will be examples of Atiki and Foose each picking up a foul in the post. Not the best positioning and not staying vertical.
Coach, way back when Jimmer Fredette was a junior, they came in here and got beat 91-34. And he said it wasn't pleasant is how he remembered it. But this he's happy with.
Conference early in the season against Long Beach State.
Jordan Roberts penetrates, leans in, draws the foul on Fousseyni Traore.
And so just to put these clips and these stats into perspective in terms of winning basketball, we're going to analyze these 4 basketball games where our lack of discipline on fouling potentially cost us the game and a chance to win the game. And so this first game here we'll take a look at. We're going to compare UVU and what they statistically on average, how many free throws they make a game, and how many they made against BYU. So let's take a look. And so as we look at the bottom line here for that UVU box score, we can see that they made 25 free throws. And if we look at the average amount of free throws they make per game through Sports Reference, we see that they typically make about 15. And so on this game, they made 10 more points than they usually do on average through the free throw line. And so that basically cost us 10 points for not playing average in terms of committing fouls, and we lost the game by 7. And so if we're able to improve that discipline in terms of committing fouls, we potentially could have won that game against UVU. And so we'll do the same thing with this game here against Pacific that we lost. So we look here, Pacific makes 19 free throws. And we look on Sports Reference, they typically average between 12 and 13, we'll say 13 points. And so the difference between the 19 that they made and the 13 that they usually make is about 6 points. So they got 6 more free throws than they usually do. And BYU ended up losing that game by 3. And so if they were able to be statistically average, Pacific would have got 70 points instead of 76, resulting in another BYU win. And it's a very similar story here with this Creighton game and with the San Francisco game. And so if BYU were able to statistically be average in terms of committing fouls, limiting the free throws from the other team, we could have gone 28-7 rather than 24-11. And in conference, we could have been 11-4 rather than 9-6. And so obviously in basketball, it's a game of inches, and the most minute details can be really important. And so I feel that with my analysis and my breakdowns that I can bring value to BYU, to the staff, and do whatever they ask me to do to find what can help the team win more games.